Okay, now let's deal with your guilt. All right, here we are in our emotional leadership series. This is number 6 of 7. It's almost over. Thanks for sticking with me. Now we're going to deal with guilt today. If you have not watched part 1 of this series and are not yet versed in the purpose of major negative emotions, please go check it out and come back here when you are ready, because you might just be interested in this emotion of guilt, and that is totally cool. Nothing to feel guilty about. All right, so we're talking about how guilt impacts our ability to lead ourselves, to lead others, and where it shows up for us as leaders. We have a bit of a dual conversation that goes on. We're actually going to talk about guilt and shame together, okay? Guilt and shame together. And for most people, those words feel pretty similar. Those emotional states feel pretty familiar, and they don't know the difference between them. So we do have to distinguish the difference between them. It has a huge impact on our own leadership psychology, our ability to lead ourselves, our ability to help other people deal with their limiting emotions, and us feel like we're resourceful and have the choices we need to keep moving forward, especially when you're in the lonely and isolating environment that is business, where you are your own biggest judge, and guilt and shame have a lot to do with personal judgment and your framework for judgment. So shall we get straight into it? Let's rock and roll. Okay, so guilt. Guilt's feedback message, its important biological imperative, is to warn you. It's warning you around some sort of moral or ethical boundary. Now, if you're feeling guilty about something that you've done, that is past-based guilt, all right? And that's only really a small amount of the guilt that we experience. We experience guilt all the time, okay? Guilt is our major social lubricant. It's our great behavior regulator. It's our impulse controller. Guilt is what stops us from hurting people, which a lot of us can imagine when we're, in our anger and in our bad days, that we could, hurt people or things or do bad stuff. So with guilt, we experience most of it as a future-based emotion. We think about all the things that maybe we would like to do when we're having reactions, and guilt creeps in and goes, I'm going to give you some really uncomfortable physiological experiences just to point out to you that that is wrong. So it's the great corrector. It's a moral compass, all right? Guilt tells us when we're straying too close to the line. It's sort of like one of those audible lines on the highway when you're driving and you get a little bit too close, and the audible line, the tire on the audible line goes, and whoa, okay, correct, and come back. So we have guilt that we use internally that, as a future projection, helps us continue to calibrate and go, is it okay to do that? Is it okay to do this? Is it okay to do that? And guilt will tell you if it is or not. Then we have societal guilt, which a lot of us love to make jokes about, like structured religion and Catholic guilt and all these things. Now, those aren't jokes. They are institutionalized social corrective structures that have a massive impact, okay? And that could be a positive impact or a negative impact. But one of the things with societal guilt is you have guilt, like even something as simple as littering. Feeling bad about littering, that other people are going to judge you and make you feel guilty. All of that is really healthy social correction. And a lot of people call it a herd psychology, group psychology. Guilt in Australia, a lot of it is experienced as tall poppy syndrome. Don't stand out too much, you'll feel bad, you'll make other people look bad. So as a leader, especially in Australia, in the UK, where we come from, that sort of repressive structure, we have issues around tall poppy syndrome, where our perceived guilt that we'll receive from our social conditioning tells us, don't go do those things, don't stand out, don't make other people look bad, don't maximize yourself because somehow that will minimize other people, don't want things because somehow that's taking away from other people. all of these conditioned constructs that have come from religion, that have come from colonialization, that have come from different experiences like war and poverty and things that aren't necessarily contextually relevant to us right now in some parts of the world, but not right now for most of us living in Western society. And for those of you watching this video, I doubt you're watching this video if you're dealing with those circumstances. And if you are, big love to you. So, guilt is our greatest social lubricant. It's our impulse controller. It keeps us safe. And guilt is in the world of action. Guilt is in the world of doing. This is where guilt is different to shame. Although the physical sensation is the same, the uncomfortableness, the self-loathing, the disgust, all of those emotions are very similar between guilt and shame. But the key difference is guilt is dealing with the world of action. It's dealing with the external world, other people, things, and actions you'll take. Shame is about self. Shame is an internal experience. Shame is an identity issue. Shame is to do with judgment of self. So guilt looks like this. Guilt looks like I did something bad, or I'm fantasizing about doing something bad. Shame looks like I am bad. Now, shame can become an internalized issue from a series of external guilt behaviors. So if you take an action that you're unhappy about, that you believe breaches your morals and ethics, and you take it enough times, you'll build enough evidence for, well, if I kept doing that over and over again, I must be a bad person. So making the same kind of mistakes in business, feeling like you're, if you're constantly feeling like you're letting people down as a leader, if you do that enough times, it can internalize into that you are a bad person, because what kind of person would do that thing over and over again, knowingly or unknowingly? So then it becomes an identity issue, it becomes an internalized issue. Now, guilt is just fabulous because it provides us this framework to uphold our standards and our values. Shame is unable to be referenced. There's no markers, there's no indicators, there's really no fair play with shame. And if you're dealing with shame as a product of, multiple overrides of your guilt, doing things even when you knew they were wrong, then you need to process that. You need to recalibrate this identity issue and re-establish a relationship to yourself, even just with simple little things day to day, where you can count on yourself to follow the guide of your ethics and your moral framework. So, guilt in the world of reality can be measured. Shame in the world of identity can't be measured. Really, you'll just have as much shame as depending on how good or bad you feel on any given day. So shame is crucial to work with because it will paralyze you. It will have you continually meet the need of figuring out how ashamed of yourself you should be. So you'll find yourself continually doing things even though you don't want to, that reinforce this shame experience of yourself. If you're dealing with just garden variety guilt where it corrects you, very good. If you're dealing with an overzealous amount of guilt, then you've got to do the work of examining what your guilt framework is. What are your morals and ethics? What are you going to decide to be led by? Are you going to be informed by religious constructs? Are you going to be informed by society? Or are you going to be guided by your own ideals and personal code of conduct? So, big conversation, guilt versus shame, how we process them, how we deal with them. Guilt, essentially how we deal with it, is if it's future-based guilt, you examine if it's valid. Does it come from your own personal code of conduct and framework? Good. If it does, you adhere to that guilt. You don't take the behaviour. If the framework that you realise is invalid, then the guilt will disappear and you'll have freedom to take the action. With shame, you have to deal with the identity issue, okay? Get perspective. If you can't get perspective on your own, you need the support and perspective of a coach, all right? Working through, whatever it is that you've done, the guilt from the past, and processing that effectively and taking corrective action to remedy that, rectify that, heal relationships, take responsibility. Those are crucial steps if you've got internalized shame from years of guilt. If it's just shame because you've learnt some negative conditioning, you've got limiting beliefs about who you are, about what you deserve and what's okay. If you have those, then it's time, desperately time, to book in a time to talk to me, and we'll discuss what your pathway is going to be for resolution. My name's Emily Diamond, and I look forward to speaking with you.